Joining us on your channel of choice at this time, Third Eye Africa TV, a station that is always there to watch your back, give you updates on security-related issues, and of course, these are newspaper headlines where we take a look at top stories from our national dailies, and we are here to always update you on issues, of course, security-related issues, and of course, other issues of national importance. And here with me in the studio today is my learned friend who is always finding out time to, to join me on this segment to review our major headlines on our national dailies. Joining me in the studio today is Mr. Ogochukwu P. Isuguzo. He's a barrister and a legal practitioner who is always here to, throw light on topical issues from the national dailies we have with us. And I'll just go straight to the first paper in front of me today without wasting time. Ogochukwu, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Let's go straight to the first paper we have with me today, which is Blueprint newspaper. Is my first paper today. And I have on the Blueprint newspaper, the boldest headline says, security aides fight as PDP faction battles for secretariat. And it has some riders. The first rider says, Turaki-led NWC barricade Wadata Plaza. Wike group expels Makinde, Bala, Bode George. New ESCOs. All right, and another story there that is also a rider says police disperse crowd with tear gas. And of course, if you want to read up on that story, pick up a copy of Blueprint newspaper today. And that story is boldly, very bold on the front page of Blueprint. And of course, the story continues on page 8 of Blueprint newspaper today. And another very disturbing story that is also a follow-up on what happened in Kebbi, says Kebbi school kidnap, Shetima visit as governor alleges sabotage. That's also a very bold story on the front page of Blueprint today. And of course, the story continued on the same page 8 of Blueprint newspaper. And there's a corner piece that talks about ghost voters practice. 18 of the past. This is coming from the new INEC boss, Amupiton Ashos, Nigeria. That's also on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper today. And of course, the story continues on page 8 of Blueprint. Of course, there's a rider scores Beavers high in Anambra. Of course, there's a just concluded gubernatorial elections that took place in Anambra. I think that is a reference the INEC boss is making. And that's all we have from the Blueprint newspaper today. I will just take a pause and move my attention to my learned friend in the studio, my guest, Mr. Ugochukwu P. Isuguzo, a legal practitioner. And of course, he's going to be reacting to some of these stories today. Ugochukwu, which of these stories from Blueprint catches your attention more? Should we just begin from the first story that talks about security aides fight as PDP faction battles for secretariat? What would you make of that? Because that's the boldest headline from the Blueprint newspaper today.
I was speaking with some colleagues during the week, and one of them made a very, very interesting statement. He said, the progress of every nation depends on the mindset of the elites and the political class.
Absolutely.
What is happening in the PDP is not a surprise. PDP has been a party that has been embattled for so many years. These things have been happening in the PDP for as long as when Obasanjo was the president of this country. And one wonders why people in the PDP up till today have not been able to develop some sort of strength of character to handle issues and matters that concern their party in very matured and civilized manner. What is happening in the PDP is not a surprise. They have even before the coming of the APC, this has been their way of doing things, and they have sometimes pushed their controversies into governance. It is quite unfortunate. I read the statement by the new publicity secretary of the PDP, that is the Turaki faction.
Okay.
And he said that what happened yesterday was instigated by the government of President Tinubu, who is trying to kill opposition. That is one side of the story. But one other thing that must not be overlooked is that it is quite sad that PDP has not been able to address its lingering problem and get it solved. People say Wike is the man who is generating all this trouble, but I wonder how one man called Wike will be bigger and above the institution of PDP. So if for whatsoever reason we have come to the point where security aides of politicians are fighting, it tells you how much we have descended. These are the issues we are still raising. Why will security aides be fighting in public because of politicians? If I were in charge of these security agencies where the security aides come from, these security aides will be accordingly dealt with and disciplined, because it is a shame, it is disgraceful that security aides whose responsibility were to, in quote, probably be VIP attachés and make sure that these people are protected, will now descend to the point of getting involved in the imbroglio of PDP as it is today. Now, what has also happened in the PDP also is important for every other political party to learn. When you don't allow internal democracy to run and to run freely, when you put selfish interest above the interest of the nation, PDP is facing what it did to what's happening today because of the primary election of 2023. Had PDP overlooked the selfish interest of some individuals in the PDP and stand with their zoning formula, which they have been using since 1999, not to come and say it's open for everybody, they will not find themselves in this situation. PDP, as at 2023 primary election, could not look into the face of some politicians and say, look, it is not for you people to contest. We are not leaving it open. This ticket is for the South, or is for the North, or is for the Southeast, or is for the South-South, or is for the Southwest. We will not open it. But because they decided to give it out, because of some selfish interest, they decided to sell, let me not use the word sell, they decided to sacrifice the party on the altar of some selfish interest. That is why they have the problem they have, and that is why they are still trying. The problem hitting the PDP today is the inability to reconcile selfish interests.
Absolutely.
And that is why we keep on saying, pursue national interest above selfish interest.
All right. Pursue national interest. But that's very instructive there from Ugochukwu. Ugochukwu, thank you. I like the way you aptly analyzed that story from the PDP, and I think they postponed the meeting to today or something. I saw that as a writer in one of the stories. Let's see how.
Yes, I just hope they'll be able to manage
what comes out of it. Now let's go to Kebbi. Kebbi school kidnap. Shettima visits as governor alleges sabotage. I don't know. What do you make of this? Sabotage from who?
It's not the first time that governors are making these allegations against our security agencies. It has happened before, and it's still happening again. When I read the story, I was really, really, really sad. The governor is saying that there was an intelligence report from the DSS that school was going to be attacked. They held a security meeting and they agreed that there should be security men on ground so that they will dislodge every form of attack against the school. Interestingly, the security men were deployed, according to the story, and the security men were dealing with and interfacing with the students. However, 30 minutes before the attack, the security men withdrew. They withdrew from the point where they were supposed to give their services. On whose orders? These are questions that should be asked. Who was commanding this group of security men that were deployed to this school. Can that person explain why they left their security post 30 minutes before the attack? Who ordered that withdrawal? When these questions are asked, there will be some headway into unraveling actually what happened in the school. And you don't blame the governor, because if the governor says that there was
An arrangement.
an arrangement to ensure that this thing will not happen, and the news he's getting is that 30 minutes before that attack, that expected attack, security men who were sent there got left there, then there is so much question to be asked. However, let me still say that, you see, raising the issue of sabotage is not enough. The governor who knew that there would be an attack on the school, a governor who had the interest of his students at heart, should have closed that school immediately. There was no need for any other thing. These things have been happening in the north. The Chibok girls, is it the Dapchi girls, the one that happened, different schools.
Yeah, I was going to say that we had a similar, just like the same story,
The same story.
whether with the Dapchi or the Chibok
it's the
girls,
Dapchi.
that the security men withdrew
Withdrew.
before the attack took place.
Exactly.
So this is like a reoccurrence.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I should we be, repeating same mistake over and over again? Because if you look at it, really, like you rightly mentioned, if there is a threat of an attack, the safest thing to do at that point shouldn't be for you to bring security men to put the lives of these kids at risk, because if there's a shootout, there'll be fatality. So when you had that information, what was supposed to be the action? Was it supposed to be, okay, let's deploy armed security men to protect these children, or shut down the school altogether?
The school should have been shut down immediately. The school ought to have been shut down immediately. There was no need in the first place to come and start doing this sort of trial and error that the government took. I went to a boarding school, so I know what it means to be attacked, because I went to a boarding school, a government boarding school, where we were also exposed to such. In fact, sometimes I ask myself, if these things were happening as at the time people like us went to boarding school, we would have had no hope. Because I remember vividly that my hostel was located behind the hostel was bush. Beside, we were just in the middle of a forest. And if there was an attack, when I read the story, I pictured my own school. And I was asking myself, what would have happened?
Yeah.
Who would have helped us? To think that there were security men deployed to guard that school, and 30 minutes before the time they withdrew, the commander of that set of officers,
Yeah.
the ought to be questioned. He needs to explain why that happened. And you see, one of the challenges we have been having is that when things like this happen, it's like nobody's head roll. Things just go as if it's normal.
Yeah.
Nobody gives any explanation. Nobody is disciplined, and that is why these things continue. I hope that the new chief of army staff will take this particular case seriously. Let us have a scapegoat.
Absolutely.
Let us have somebody who will take responsibility for this thing, because it is unconscionable that this kind of thing continues unabated.
Yeah, well noted there. I think the authorities are listening, and they are hearing these, suggestions that is coming out from my guest today on the newspaper review. And I think being that the vice president has moved into that state, and I think health actually needs to rule. And for these girls to remain in captivity for more than 48 hours, for the fact that they are girls, vulnerable, and all of that, the level of vulnerability, having female kids in the hands of terrorists for over 48 hours is like, too risky for Nigeria at this point. I hope we don't, repeat another story of Chibok girls, of course, the Dapchi incident in this situation. Let's take our attention away from our security issues now and move to another very interesting headline which talks about ghost voters practice, a thing of the past. This is coming from Amukiton, the new INEC boss, says he scores Beavers high in Anambra election. I can see you smiling because sometimes ago we talked about Electoral Act amendment and all of that.
Yes.
So what would you make of this particular headline?
It is interesting that the new INEC chairman, who has not stayed in office for up to, even if it's 6 months, is scoring Beavers high, despite the challenges, the questioning, the issues that have gone around Beavers. You see, Beavers is not the problem.
Okay.
Beavers is not the problem. Scoring Beavers high is not the problem. I keep on saying it. The problem is, one, those who have the responsibility of using these beavers.
Okay.
The INEC officers who are giving these beavers to work with. That is where the number one challenge. How many are these people of integrity who will not be compromised? At the state levels, are they? You know, so the issue is not ghost voters. We have that is even if we are doing ghost voters, the question is, if one of the uses of the beavers is after the election, the beavers should be able to take a shot of that result and post it to the IRF. If that transmission does not have any legal value, does not have any legal implications, of what use is the beavers? Of what use is the beavers? You know, I was listening to a professor, Professor Sam, who was in charge of NEC, and he was talking about the rules that INEC came up with for 2020.
Sam Amadi.
Sam Amadi, thank you. Who was talking about the rules that INEC raised in 2023 for the election, and the role beavers was supposed to play, and how the courts, the Supreme Court said no, the INEC could decide whether to use it or not. If beavers is going to be useful, let INEC come out and say beavers is going to be useful. This is the legal implication of beavers. We are going to make sure that beavers transmission will be effective and it will count. I told you the last time I came here, we'll discuss this thing, that when you go to IRF, as a 2023 election, for states like Rivers State, you will see beavers was used to upload mutilated results.
Handwritten
mutilated results.
Figures cancelled. Adjusted
and all that. And you ask yourself, so somebody actually used beavers to transmit this kind of results? And what was the end? So it's not about beavers. When you take a beavers report oftentimes will give you the statement of how many people ought to have voted, how many people voted, how many votes were not counted, how many were counted, and all that. It doesn't end there. The problem is the legal implication of beavers, IRF, and transmission of results. So whether there are ghost voters, whether there are no ghost voters, what is the legal implication of beavers? If beavers is not used at a polling unit, what happens to the results
from that polling unit?
Will the results from that polling unit be cancelled for non-compliance? And will the courts say that there was substantial compliance when beavers was not used? That is when we will know we are making progress with beavers. It's not about deploying beavers. What happened in Anambra State election should never be a point of reference or measurement. Why? Because there were issues of vote buying. Vote buying, serious vote buying took place.
That was one hand. Voter apathy was
there on one hand.
Because we have over 2.something million eligible voters in Anambra State. I think less than half, because the vote that was I don't want to use the word allocated. The vote that was declared for the winner was less than 500,000. And if you add the other candidates, if you add their vote all together, it's somewhere around close to about 1 million or so. So where you have less than 50% of eligible voters coming to elect a governor in a state, what would you make of that?
People have lost confidence. People have lost confidence in INEC. People have lost confidence.
So it's not so
It
much
will-
about ghost voters now.
No, it's not about that. It will repeat itself in 2027 election. A lot of people don't have any confidence in our electoral process. Especially, let me not go deep, but a lot of, go to the streets. People make mockery. I have been in places when they talk about probably meetings, ordinary meetings, association meetings, when they talk about doing votes. And you hear someone like, I hope INEC is not the one that will conduct our this small election. Because people don't have confidence in INEC.
INEC.
People believe that INEC is as usual, you know, and that is why I keep on saying it, that INEC must make sure that it redeems itself of this kind of mentality Nigerians have about, you know, there's not all these things about goes work voter. No.
Okay, but
there are more serious
do you
issues.
think it's much about INEC or the Electoral Act amendment?
The Electoral Act is there, but I tell you, my brother,
Because if Beavers is going to have legal backing, it has to be part of the amendment to the Electoral Act.
the 2023 election, there was INEC made rules
Okay.
for beavers.
Okay.
But the same INEC refused to comply with it. You see, the problem is not the law. The problem is not the rule. The problem is the institution given the responsibility to enforce the rule.
Absolutely, because I remember in one of our review here, I was talking to a colleague of mine. I said, if INEC is the referee of an election, and INEC has, cited or noticed some forms of vote buying, it is the INEC's responsibility to draw the security agencies that are working with INEC, because
Yes.
security agencies are there to enforce any irregularity spotted by the INEC.
Yes.
So I think you are correct there.
Yes,
because
INEC has a responsibility of making sure that most of these things are complied with,
absolutely,
no matter the nature of the law.
whether it's rules,
Whether it is rules, anyone, and whether even if the law is bad, INEC has a responsibility to ensure that that bad law is complied, because that is the law.
Absolutely.
But where INEC is not coming out to play the role it is expected of it, where INEC is not being forceful enough to take a position to say, this is the rule, you did not comply with it, we are not going. See, there are people, there are few instances. We had something like that in Akwa Ibom a few years ago. There was this wreck from Akwa Ibom State. I forgot his name. Is it Ignis?
yes,
Yes.
I forgot his
Mike
name. Igini.
Who insisted that a particular rule must be complied with. And every shout, politicians in Akwa Ibom State were shouting. I said, no.
At the end of the day, he was applauded.
He was applauded. Look at what happened in Abia State in 2023 election. The rec, no, the returning officer who is the VC of what they call this
Federal University of Technology,
Owerri,
Owerri.
Futo, insisted that the right thing be done. And you see, the people's will was obvious, because the day that election was declared in favor of the Labour Party, the people were rejoicing and happy. So the truth of the matter, unlike other situations where you declare the results, everybody will be moody. The military will be everywhere, trying to quell any form of discontent being shown. So the truth of the whole matter is that beavers must have a forceful legal implication, even if it means to amend the Electoral Act. Even if it means to amend the Electoral Act, beavers must have serious legal implication. The law should be that if beavers is not using a polling unit, please, the results from that polling unit will not be acknowledged. And if we do it like that, then we will be making a lot of progress. But all these things about applauding beavers, where you are not, where it is not having any significant revival of the whole process, then it is just mere words as usual, our institutions. So I would think that the INEC chairman should work towards making beavers of much more serious legal value than what it is today, before he will go ahead to applaud beavers.
Well said there. I think we'll just move to the next paper in front of me. It's always interesting having Ugochukwu with me on this segment of Papers Review, because he always have a way of, bringing some, there's when they say where the water passes under the bridge, and he doesn't just bring in the two sides of the coin. I must commend you for that.
Thank you
He
very much.
also try to look at the edges of the coin, because when we look at the two sides of the coin, we actually have the edges, because
Yes.
sometimes when you look at the two sides without looking at the edges, you might miss the line. And I
Yes.
must commend you, and it's always interesting to have this
Thank you
to
very
have
much.
you on this segment. So we move to the next paper with me here, which is the Vanguard newspaper, and it has its boldest headline this day, talking about Wike governors clash as police fire tear gas. Turaki Mohammed seeks international help to save opposition. Wike stays in his vehicle as police rain tear gas. Turaki postponed PDP NWC meeting to today, says Nigeria democracy in grave danger. That's following up on the story from the Wadata Plaza, what happened yesterday between the two factions of the People's Democratic Party. And there's another story from the front page of Vanguard today that talks about Khan insists there is Christian genocide in Nigeria. I think I'll pause there. I don't know if you have gone through the front page of Vanguard today. There's another story that talks about Shetima heads to Kebbi. We've taken a look at that before. As Tinubu vows rescue of kidnapped students. From the Vanguard newspaper today, Ugochukwu, which of the stories catches your attention most today?
Well, also riding from the issue of PDP, I was watching the video where the new, the factional, or will I say the new factional chairman?
Yes.
In fact,
They have all kinds of titles now.
as a matter of personal opinion, I will say the chairman of the PDP, Turaki said, calling upon the president of the United States of Nigeria
To come and help us.
to come and help and get involved. President Trump seems to be the savior of all the whole world right now.
We have security issues, we invite Trump. We have political issues, we invite Trump. So
And you now start saying, somebody may want to ask himself, what was the essence of your independence in the beginning? It's just quite sad that we do not want to grow politically as a nation. Like I said earlier, that the publicity secretary of the PDP, in the statement that PDP issued yesterday, fingered the president as being an instrument
Orchestrator,
or
yeah.
an orchestrator of this whole
Drama.
problem, of this whole drama. Democracy must be protected. Opposition is very, very, very important. And the writer says that Wike was in his car when all these things was happening.
Yes.
And I asked myself, is Wike really still interested in PDP? If former Governor Wike is interested in the PDP, there should be a way of resolving this problem. We cannot continue like this. But if he's no more interested in the PDP, it's advised that he just hands off. On the issue of Christian genocide, there has been a lot of arguments about it, but there is no need for too much argument on this matter. There is clearly, I will not say there is a Christian genocide, but I will say that there is an intentional plot to continue killing Christians in the north. There is an intentional plot. Boko Haram, ISWAP, all of them, they are all working towards this thing. The killing, see, I keep on saying it, there is no difference between the terrorists and the bandits. Banditry or bandits is a creation of the media. They are all the same thing. And the work is towards ensuring that Christians in most of the northern parts of Nigeria will be decimated. And that is what is happening. And people who are arguing or making this whole thing look like a joke is so sad. It's also true. I was reading the statements credited to Femi Fani-Kayode. It's also true that Muslims are also suffering heavily from these things. That is why it's not really fair to just look at it only from the issue of Christianity, because Muslims are also heavily attacked. We have read in the news where mosques are being attacked. People go to mosques to pray and bombs just explode and Muslims are being killed. But the truth of the whole matter is that the reason why people are talking about Christian genocide is because people who are doing these attacks are coming from the angle of Islam. And so there is this some sort of belief that there is some level of I'm looking for a particular word to use. There's some level of pity. Let me use that word.
Sympathy.
Sympathy. That is the word I was looking for the Muslims as against the Christians who have become majorly the target. Look at what is happening in Benue. Look at what has happened in Taraba, Zamfara, in places like Plateau, scores and scores, Kaduna, southern Kaduna. When Buhari was the president, these killings took place so much in Kaduna. Then El-Rufai was the governor. And when all the people were crying, El-Rufai was dismissing it as if it was just one of those things. You know, so these things are serious. So there is a need for our security agencies to understand that this thing, see, people who have read the history of jihad know that this is a modern form of jihad. It must not be the way it used to be in those years. No, this thing has taken a much more civilized or modern form and is being executed. People are killing their fellow human beings on the lines of religion. And the day government begins to tell itself the truth that this thing is real, we will make a lot of progress.
Okay, I'm happy because I was going to draw your attention to the killings that have also happened in the mosque, like you have rightly mentioned, even in some communities where Muslims were also killed. So that is a point I try to stay with whenever this headline comes up. That it is not correct to attribute the killings by these terrorists and bandits to one particular religion alone, as you have rightly pointed out. I think the next paper, which is the Leadership newspaper, is what I have in front of me today. And the boldest headline is talking about Kebbi school gets abduction again. The writer says the writer is actually the bolder headline because that's the main emphasis. It's talking about how my husband was killed, slain teachers' wives recount. And there is security operatives ignore Department of State Security Services intelligence source says that. Remain calm, student will be released. Army chief governor says, and that is a story you can pick up a copy of a Leadership newspaper today to read up on page 4 of the Leadership newspaper. Then above the nameplate, it's talking about People's Democratic Party crisis. Governors take over secretariat as Wike camp expels Makinde orders. That story is on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper today. I was going to skip this, but let me just take it. External reserve hits $46.7 billion, highest since 2018.
It's not about
that is coming from
let
Central
it tell on the lives of the Nigerians. All these figures, go to the streets. That is where people are living. It's not all these figures Central Bank is giving. If you like, let it be up to 300, whatsoever. Let it tell on the lives of the ordinary Nigerians. That is the most important thing.
Absolutely. I always say that when I'm on the other side, when I'm doing this review with Juliet or Margaret most times, that it's not just more about the GDP hitting certain figures. For me, I think there's difference between GDP and economic growth. There are two different things. When there is GDP growth, when your GDP rises, it does not mean you have economic growth. Economic growth is when you see the lives of the people, improving,
Yes.
the cost of living coming down, the cost of housing, affordable housing, employment level, infrastructure, transportation, industrialization. These are indices of economic growth, not so much about gross domestic product. And I like your interjection there. I was going to read some other stories before I come to you to react to some of these headlines from the Leadership newspaper today. I have another story here at the corner piece which says Senate seeks recruitment of 100,000 soldiers, probe of safe schools. a probe of safe school funds. Another story that might be of interest to you, which is one of the last story I'm going to take today from Leadership newspaper, is talking about banks deposits withdraw. Okay, banks deposits with Central Bank of Nigeria so as to 48.40 trillion. And like I think that would be your same reaction from the first story, from the other story I read that talks about external reserve. But I want you to there's a story that also which we have talked about, Christian genocide going on in Nigeria. That is coming from Daniel Oko insist. I think it's coming from one of the Christian association groups. What I want to just say about that is let's focus on how we can, um, this help that Donald Trump has, promised to offer to Nigeria in terms of military support to flush out terrorism. I think that should be the interest. It should not. We should play down on, what uh, people are insinuating, or the other. There were two legs to the story.
Yes.
Yeah, the alleged genocide and the offer to help. So now, whether the first leg is a fact or false, let's just leave that as it is. But why can't we really, fast track this process of this help that America has offered to, help us in terms of airstrikes and, military supports?
Well, we can't tell for now. I don't know if you have the facts.
Yeah, the presidency has said that they've started the process of,
such things will not really need to be on public
because
knowledge.
security,
Because it's
yes,
security.
it has to do with
So
security.
I believe that if they have finally decided to collaborate, we will just wait to see the results in the long run.
Yeah.
And that is the most important thing. Nigerians need help. We have been fighting this battle for so many years, from the days of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, and it got more heated with President Jonathan, and there has been no progress. And it now seems as if since President Tinubu took over, it has not been a free for all. Just continue. So let's see whether there will be some progress, and let's see if Nigerian security situation will be restored, so that Nigerians will feel better in their houses.
Yeah, and I just want you to, your last comment on this Kebbi school girls abduction. We've dwelled so much on that. The woman recounting how her husband was killed. That's the slain teacher's wife. And I want to emphatically stress this today, that even while we try to rescue these girls, families are mourning already. There's hope that these girls will all come back alive. But let's also not ignore, people who have lost their lives, and and have family, to mourn. The rider says security operatives ignore Department of State Security intelligence, and that is, that is what you emphasized earlier on when we analyzed them. So we really hope that this does not just end on headlines, because one of the challenges we've had in this country is that some of these findings, security reports, even when it comes to the terrorism that is currently going on, there have been several allegations and counter allegations, even from the former chief of defense staff, who came out to say that there are collaborators, politicians, there are collaborators from community heads who are giving support, and there are sponsors and all of that. What happens to all these intelligence and security reports is, I think, some of the crimes that have happened in this country. It is not that government does not have leads as to whom to hold responsible when it comes to whether it is negligence, whether it is sabotage that is being alleged by the governor of Kebbi today. So we just hope that some of these riders that we have read out today does not end in the pages of the papers, because most of the time we just read through them like this, and at the end of the day, Nigerians have short memory. Once another incident happens tomorrow, this becomes a thing of the past. We just hope this does not become one of those incidents.
We really, really hope so. Let me use this opportunity to express my condolences to the family of the Brigadier General Oba, who was killed by a terrorist. It's sad that a senior military officer who was commanding a force, you know, I don't know how people see it. I don't know how the military sees it. A commander was captured and killed
By terrorists.
By terrorists. It is a big blow, and it's sad, quite unfortunate that that commander had even escaped. The news is that his conversation was trailed, and he was captured. It's quite sad, and the army. My heart goes to the army who lost one of their own, a senior officer. And we hope, like you have rightly said, that these things will not just be one of those rhetorics by the military. Look at the statement by the COAS saying that, please, everybody should be calm. By the antecedents of the Nigerian army, how can people be calm? There was Chibok girls, little or nothing happened. Dapchi girls, little or nothing happened. So how do you expect people to be calm? Let's hope that it will be a different situation this time, so that Nigerians will have some level of confidence. That's why you see people who are quite excited when they heard that the US wanted to get involved in dealing with these issues. So in the long run, it is hopeful that the statement by the Chief of Army Staff will actually come out to be something that is positive. These girls will be released, and I must say, I think it is high time governors from the north reconsider most of these schools that have these single schools and see if they can do some sort of rearrangement, even if it's temporarily. Some of these schools should be closed. It is obvious that these terrorists are targeting single female schools. They have been doing it. They have been doing it. Why do we give them the opportunity to continue? Why? If I were governor of Kebbi State, as of today, I would have closed some of these schools, or the life of these students are more important than any sort of curriculum. It is more important.
Absolutely.
If these children are alive, they can redo another year. They will not die for doing one more year.
Absolutely.
But if they are not alive, if they are not safe, they cannot go to school. So I will advise the governor of Kebbi State right now to reconsider some of these schools. If there are single male schools, he close them down, reassigns these schools to new. See, the government can do all these things. It's a matter of the will, political will. Reassign most of these school students to new schools, take them back or ask them to stay at home for a period. Let all these things quail down, and then they can come back again. But to continue exposing students to this kind of risk, it's not in their best interest.
It is not in their best interest. Well said there. Ugochukwu P. Isiguzo is my guest today on the newspaper segment, and is a legal practitioner, and anytime he joins me on this segment, it's always an exciting moment for me, like I said earlier, because he always has all sides of the stories, and very fair and balanced in his analysis. Ugochukwu P. Isiguzo, I must thank you sincerely for always finding your time to join me on this segment, and I hope very soon I'll invite you again, because this time around you took a long break from this segment, and we have missed you a great deal.
I'll be here again.
Thank you so much for joining me on this segment today.
Thank you.
That's much we can do today on the newspaper review segment, and we've done justice to some of the major headlines from our papers today. I urge you to pick up some of these national dailies and read up on some of those stories we've read out to you, and you can also have your own perspective to some of the analysis we have given you today. And that is where we call it a day today on the newspaper segment. Remember, security is everyone's business. If you see something, please say something. And don't forget to always take advantage of our iReport platform. The iReport is a platform where you can report issues happening around you, any suspicious move, any activities that is not clear to you. If you are safe enough to take a video, please do that and send to us on the iReport platform, or even a photo. Be rest assured we'll do justice and follow up with investigation on any issues you report to us on the iReport platform. From me, Charles Agedo, and this is where we call it a wrap today on the newspaper segment. Keep watching Third Eye Africa TV, your number one channel when it comes to crime watch and crime prevention.